Hi everyone, welcome back to Tech Education. This is part 2 series of Azure Durable Functions. In part 1, we completed what are Azure Functions, what limitations it has it. Next, we discussed about overview of Durable Functions, what are the different types it has it. Next, we understood how exactly the Durable Functions work and where to use them. Finally, we discussed a couple of use cases where we can use Durable Functions. Before watching this video, I recommend you to watch part 1 for better understanding, and the link of this video is available in the description box. In this video, we'll be simulating a ETL use case. This is one of the common use case where companies will implement durable functions. Now let's see the architecture of the same. This is the architecture of the durable functions, where you will have like 3 activities. So for each activity, you will have a separate functions. That is nothing but your activity functions. Ingestion is nothing but fetching data from the source. Next is transformation. Transformation means where you will be performing some, it could be like you will be adding some validations, or you will be checking for null values. If you have some null values, you might be replacing with the default values, or it could be changing the date format, etc. Those are called like transformations. And the final step is like load activity. The transform data, you wanted to push it into the database, or it could be the storage account, etc. The way it works is the client function will invoke the orchestration function. The orchestration function will in turn invokes these activity functions. First, it will invoke ingestion activity. Once it is done, the orchestrator will invoke the transformation activity. Finally, it will invoke the load activity. Let's jump into the code. These are the different classes which you will have it in this function. First one is data input, where you will be mentioning what from which source you are getting the data and what is the format of the data. Second is transformation of the data, and finally analysis result. So these are called as data contracts. These are the classes that define the structure and format of data. For the sake of simplicity, I just took a property called like data, which is of string type. These are like different functions in the durable functions. First one is like client HTTP start. This is the function where we'll be invoking the orchestration function, and we have made it as a HTTP trigger so that we can trigger via the HTTP request. This client function will invoke the orchestrator function, that is nothing but run orchestrator. This run orchestrator, first it will invoke ingest data activity, second transform data activity, third one is the load activity. And in case if this load activity has a parameter saying that notification should be sent, which is equal to true or false, then this another activity called send notification will be triggered. This is the client function. As the name implies, client underscore HTTP start. This will be executed via the HTTP trigger, and we can consume it using the post method. If we are passing any parameters, that will be available in this HTTP request data object. Next is Durable Task Client. This durable class is provided by the Azure Durable Functions. This instance will allow us to interact with orchestrations. Basically, we can invoke an orchestration function using this instance. We can check the status of the orchestration, and if required, we can send events also. That is the purpose of this Durable Task Client. In this piece of code, we are reading the data from the request body. And here I just added some null check references. In case if you did not pass the parameters, I'm just saying that request body is empty. And if you have the data, we are deserializing the data, whatever we pass it from the postman. Here we are invoking the orchestration function. This is the name of the function, and this is the data what we will be passing it, which we get from the HTTP request. Now next is orchestration function. This is the data orchestration function. And this function, if you have an orchestration trigger, this indicates that this is an orchestration function. Next is task orchestration context. Again, this is the class provided by the Azure Durable Function. It gives us the context of the orchestration functions. In the sense, we'll be able to call activity functions using this instance, and then we'll be able to store and retrieve the state information in the orchestration function using this context instance. We are reading the data and then storing it into the input data variable. Next, we are making a call to the activity function called ingest data, and this is the input parameter it is expecting, and the expected output is string. In the same way, we are calling the next activity transform data. This is the name of the activity, and this is the result. Whatever we get it in the ingestion result, the same we are passing it into the transformation data, and we are expecting the output of this is like transform data. This is the another object which we have it in the data contract, which will have your data into it. And finally, we are invoking the third activity function, load data, and the input for this particular activity is the transform data. And we are expecting the output of this particular thing is analysis result. That particular thing you can see it again in the data contract. This analysis result will have a property called requires notification. If it is true, we will trigger another activity. That is what is happening here. If analysis result dot requires notification is there, we are sending the notification activity. These activity functions are the building blocks of the durable functions orchestration. They perform the actual work. It will perform the data ingestion. Next is it will perform the transformation. And third one, it will load the data. You can consider that these are nothing but a regular Azure functions which will be invoked. Now let's execute this particular function. Let's copy this. We need to use post method. We'll be sending this particular data to the function. So function is executed. Let's check the output of it. So data processing, this is the output. Data processing is completed, and the runtime status you can see it as completed. And this is the input values which we have sent it to them. If you have noticed it in Azure Functions, you will get the output immediately. Whereas in Azure Durable Functions, you are getting the URLs, you are not getting the instant output. The reason for that is durable functions are designed to run long running and stateful workflow. This may pause and resume the work later point in time. That is the reason why you don't get the immediate response. Instead of the response, you will get it as HTTP 2.2 status with the URLs for checking the status of the orchestration functions. These are nothing but the URLs what we got it. Now let's try to understand the functionality of this URL. First point here is status query URL. This will give you the status of the orchestration function. Next is terminate post URL. In case if you want to terminate this execution, consider that your durable function will execute for 2 hours. In the middle, you realize that this is not required. Then you will be able to terminate this URL by making this particular request. Next is send event post URL. This is generally required if you are waiting for some external event. Could be like a leave management system where once the user approves it, you will be able to use this particular URL and then send an event to the durable functions. Next is purge history delete URL. This URL is required to delete the data from the storage account. Generally, we don't do it, but sometimes what happens is in production, if there is an issue which is not reproducible anywhere else, you might be doing some kind of testing in the production. And once the testing and fixing is done, you will be able to delete this particular data in the storage account using this particular purge history delete URL so that it doesn't get mixed up with the original production data. We got this particular URLs from this particular code. Create check status response asynchronously. So this method will give us this particular URLs. Let's deploy this particular function in Azure and execute it once again so that we will be able to check the state management. Let's build this. Let's move on to publish. Publish is done. This is the function app. Let's run this particular function using Postman. This is the name of the client function. Post. Click on send. We got the response. Now let's see the status of this particular durable function. The status of this particular durable function is completed and the final output is data processing completed. This is the message which we are returning it from the orchestration functions. One of the core benefit of the durable function is it maintains the state between function executions. In case if you're not aware of it, what is stateful function, what is stateless function, please refer my part 1 video where you will get more information on the same. This is the name of the storage account which I have given it when I'm creating the function app. So there are two main tables. One is history table, second one instance. And these names will be prefixed with the function app name, Tech Education Function App Instance and Tech Education Function App History. This instance will have the instance details. Suppose if you execute for 10 times, it will have like 10 entries. This is the latest entry. You will be able to see the input what you have given it. We have given it as data content to Azure Durable Functions. And this is the output of that particular orchestration function. You will be able to store the input and the output of the orchestration functions. You will be able to see the status as well. Since I already executed this durable function earlier, you are able to see 3 records, but this is the new record which got executed, which got inserted right now. Now let's remember, this is the partition key. Based on this partition key, we will be able to see the function execution details. If you remember, 7C is the starting number. We can see 7C, we can see 7C entries over here. This is the send notification stuff. and it doesn't have any output, but if you see the load data part of it, you will be able to see the result. Data transformation. So for each execution, it will insert row in this particular table. That's it for this video. If you found this video useful, please consider liking it. And finally, don't forget to share and subscribe. Thank you for watching.